Most men don't lose a woman because of a lack of intention. They lose her because of invisible mistakes that slowly shut something off without warning. Small mistakes. Quiet ones. Repeated ones. Mistakes that make attraction disappear instantly, even when everything seemed fine. And the worst part? Almost no one explains these things clearly. Today, you're going to understand why women lose attraction. Not because of who you are, but because of how you move emotionally. If this topic matters to you, subscribe to the channel now. Here, we talk about real attraction, psychology, and masculine growth with no filters. We're also on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and your subscription doesn't just support the channel. It puts you ahead of men who only learn these lessons when it's already too late. Topic 1. Confusing availability with value. Many men genuinely believe that being available all the time is a sign of real interest. He replies instantly, cancels his own plans, rearranges his entire schedule and thinks, "This way she'll see how much I care." But in reality, what reaches the other side isn't value, it's predictability. And predictability in attraction cools things off fast. Experienced men know this. Desire grows when someone clearly has a life of their own, full of meaning. There's a subtle but powerful difference between being present and being too accessible. A man with routines, commitments, goals, and enjoyment in his own life sends a silent message. He's not waiting to be chosen. When he says, "I can't today, but tomorrow night works," he's not rejecting her, he's positioning himself. That creates emotional respect. Think of it like this: a restaurant that's always empty versus one that requires a reservation. The second one sparks curiosity without saying a word. Interestingly, when a man stops making a woman his absolute priority, something shifts. She starts wondering where he is, what he's involved in, what occupies his mind. This isn't a game, it's energy. Limited availability signals neediness. Intentional availability signals value. And once this balance starts to adjust, unexpected reactions show up, which lead directly into the next mistake almost no one notices in time. Topic 2. Constantly seeking female validation. Many men don't realize it. But a huge part of their behavior revolves around one silent question: does she like me? From there, they start hunting for signs, compliments, fast replies, constant approval. The problem is that when a man needs validation, he stops being an emotional equal and starts asking permission to exist. Attraction doesn't grow where emotional dependence lives. It slowly withers, quietly. Experienced men see validation like sugar. A little can sweeten things, but too much becomes overwhelming. When a man compliments excessively, agrees with everything, or adjusts his words just to avoid disapproval, he communicates insecurity. A simple example: she says something he disagrees with, and he stays silent just to keep the vibe good. That costs him invisible points. Having your own opinion, expressed calmly and respectfully, creates presence. And presence creates healthy emotional tension. What's interesting is that the strongest validation doesn't come from words, but from posture. A man who approves of himself doesn't need to beg for approval. He reacts less, observes more, and chooses when to speak. That creates an intriguing gap, a silence that pulls attention. And inside that space lies the next mistake. The one that makes many men slowly disappear from themselves without even noticing. Topic 3. Losing your identity to please her. There's a quiet moment when many men start fading without realizing it. He used to work out, now he skips it. He had strong opinions. Now he agrees with everything. He had friends, now he's always busy. All in the name of keeping the connection. But ironically, the more he tries to please, the less interesting he becomes. Attraction doesn't grow from over-adaptation, it grows from grounded authenticity. A man without a clear identity becomes a reflection of the other person, and no one falls in love with an empty mirror. When he changes tastes, abandons boundaries, and hides who he is to avoid conflict, he communicates fear of loss. Now fear is felt, even when it's never spoken. A common example: he starts watching, listening to, or supporting everything she likes, even without real enjoyment. At first it looks like effort. Later it feels like a lack of substance. Wise men understand that maintaining identity isn't rigidity, it's coherence, saying "that's not for me" without aggression. It's continuing to invest in your own growth, interests, and direction, even while emotionally involved. Interestingly, when a man reconnects with who he is, the dynamic reorganizes itself. And that's exactly where an even more delicate problem appears. Because now it's no longer about pleasing, it's about how much of himself he gives away too soon. Topic 4. Sharing deep feelings too early. Many men were taught that being emotionally open is always a good thing, so they open up too fast, sharing deep insecurities, traumas, fears, and expectations early on. The intention is good, but the effect is usually the opposite. When emotional intimacy comes before a solid base, it becomes heavy. Attraction needs space to breathe before it deepens. Experienced men know that vulnerability has timing and rhythm. There's a huge difference between being authentic and emotionally dumping everything on someone. A common example. By the third date, he's already talking about painful past relationships or fears of abandonment. That subtly flips the emotional roles. She stops feeling curiosity and starts feeling responsibility. And responsibility doesn't create desire. Holding back a little isn't hiding. It's building healthy emotional tension. It allows the connection to grow in layers. Centered man does share feelings, but only as the relationship shows maturity to hold them. When he learns to pace himself, something changes in her eyes. And that's exactly where the next mistake shows up. The one that makes many men look insecure while believing they're just being nice. Topic 5. Lack of emotional leadership. Many men think leadership means controlling or dominating, so to avoid looking authoritarian, they do the opposite. They avoid deciding anything. Where do you want to go? What do you feel like doing? Whatever you want. At first it sounds polite. Over time, it communicates insecurity. The absence of emotional leadership creates a subtle sense of emptiness, like there's no emotional ground in the interaction. Wise men understand that emotional leadership isn't about control, it's about stability. It's having enough clarity to choose without fear of displeasing. Simple example. Instead of asking everything, he says, "Let's check out that new place on Friday night." If she doesn't like it, fine. He adjusts without losing his center. That posture signals emotional maturity. It shows self-trust. When a man avoids deciding, he unknowingly hands the emotional load to the woman. She starts leading everything. Pace, plans, conversations, even conflicts. That gets exhausting. Traction likes direction, not chronic indecision. And when leadership disappears, an even more dangerous mistake appears. Because now it's not just about decisions, but about how he reacts when things don't go his way. Topic 6. Reacting emotionally to everything. Many men don't realize that it's not what they feel that kills attraction, it's how they react to what they feel. Any change in her mood becomes an alarm. Any silence turns into anxiety. Any comment becomes an argument. He reacts too fast, explains too much, justifies too much. And without noticing, he turns the relationship into an emotional minefield. Experienced men know that self-control is a silent language of strength. Common example. She takes longer to reply to messages. Instead of staying focused on his day, he sends another text, then another, and asks if everything's okay. The issue isn't curiosity, it's emotional urgency. A centered man observes, breathes, and continues his day. He understands that not everything requires a reaction. Some things require inner presence. When a man reacts to everything, he communicates instability. And instability creates emotional insecurity, not attraction. Calmness, on the other hand, creates a powerful contrast. It's like someone who stays composed in chaos that draws attention. And when that calm begins to exist, an even deeper mistake emerges. Because now it's not about emotion, but about trying to explain desire instead of feeling it. Topic 7. Treating attraction like logic instead of emotion. Many men try to convince a woman to feel attraction. They over-explain, justify intentions, list qualities, and prove why they'd be a good choice. It all makes sense logically, but attraction doesn't live there. Desire doesn't respond to arguments, it responds to sensations. When a man turns connection into a PowerPoint presentation, the spark dies quietly. Wise men understand that emotion is created through atmosphere, not explanation. Instead of explaining why he's trustworthy, he shows consistency. Instead of saying he's interesting, he tells a short story, creates a moment, triggers a smile. As logic tries to control outcomes, emotion allows flow. When a man stops needing everything to make sense, something interesting happens. He becomes lighter, more present, less obsessed with getting it right. and that shift changes the entire energy. But that adjustment reveals a bigger gap in many men. Because without arguments left, one essential question remains. Where is he going in life? And that's where the next mistake appears. Topic 8. Lack of a clear life purpose. Many men don't realize that attraction also reads silence, not conversational silence, but directional silence. When a man doesn't know where he's going, when he's living on autopilot, the energy he projects is stagnation. Doesn't matter how kind or attentive he is without purpose, something feels missing. Attraction senses when there's no internal movement. Experienced men know that purpose doesn't have to be grand, it just has to be real. A man building something, a career, a personal project, physical or mental discipline, carries a different energy. Someone who trains consistently, studies to grow professionally, or develops a side business project's focus. Focus is magnetic. It's not because it impresses, but because it shows commitment to himself. When a man lacks direction, he starts orbiting the relationship, and that changes everything. She stops feeling like she's next to someone expanding, and starts feeling like she's being pulled into the center of his life. That inversion creates pressure, and right there, the next mistake appears, where good intentions quietly turn into invisible weight. Topic 9. Making her the center of your universe. Many men believe loving means putting a woman above everything. So he reorganizes his entire life around her. Schedules, decisions, mood, priorities. At first, it looks like dedication. Deep down, it signals something dangerous, emotional dependence. When someone becomes the absolute center, the relationship stops being a meeting of two lives and becomes an orbit, and orbits get exhausting. Men know that no one wants to be responsible for another person's happiness. A common example. He only goes out if it's with her, only enjoys himself if she's happy, only feels complete when she's around. That creates silent pressure. Instead of admiration, weight appears. Attraction needs two worlds that meet, not one world that disappears into the other. Interestingly, when a man regains his center, the dynamic shifts. He stays present without abandoning his life. He chooses to be there. He doesn't need to be there. That difference is felt, even without words. And that's exactly where the final mistake shows up. The one that closes the cycle and tends to be the most destructive of all. Topic 10. Fear of loss and excessive attachment. Many men don't realize how fear of loss completely changes their behavior. He starts measuring words, anticipating problems that don't exist yet, trying to secure the future before the present even happens. Everything becomes about avoiding loss, not about living the connection. Excessive attachment grows from this fear and, ironically, becomes the biggest attraction killer. Experienced men know fear is felt, even when it's never spoken. A classic example. He accepts situations that bother him just to avoid conflict, tolerates subtle disrespect, swallows his boundaries. That communicates internal scarcity. A centered man understands that losing someone is never more dangerous than losing himself. And when he chooses self-respect, even with risk, he regains emotional strength. When fear stops guiding actions, something deep reorganizes. He acts from choice, not panic. He stays because he wants to, not because he's afraid to be alone. And that state changes everything, including how the relationship is felt on the other side. From here, it becomes clear that these mistakes don't appear randomly. They follow an invisible pattern that can be broken. Conclusion. If anything you heard today made you uncomfortable, good. That means it hit something real. Now the question is simple. Are you going to keep repeating the same patterns, or are you going to start moving differently? Which mistake did you recognize in yourself, and what are you going to change starting today? Attraction isn't asked for, explained, or negotiated. It's built through daily decisions. Apply what you learned, observe your reactions, and reclaim your center. And if you want to keep developing confidence, emotional leadership, and masculine clarity, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss what's coming next. We're heading toward 1,000 subscribers, and every man who joins here decides to stop improvising his emotional life.